Alright, you lot. Today it's personal. Not angry, not emotional, just necessary. Because every so often a comment appears that's so confidently wrong, so exquisitely misinformed, it doesn't deserve a reply, it deserves a mini documentary. So welcome to a special edition at Twonk Chronicles, birthday special no less. We will explore how one man turned his misunderstanding of SBMM into a full-blown digital identity crisis, and gifted me with best content I've made all year. It started, as it often does, with a keyboard and a sense of certainty. A comment, bold, unfiltered, and dripping in self-belief. A man on a mission, not to learn, not to engage, but to correct. To enlighten masses with law so contorted it could have been drafted in a fever dream. Here's what he said. This video is just plain wrong. There was skill-based matchmaking in BO2. There was skill-based matchmaking in AW. There was skill-based team balancing in BO3 and IW. There was skill-based matchmaking in COD 4 since it was rehash at AW engine. It's been around longer than 2016. On first glance, it reads like someone quoting history. On second, it reads like someone remembering history through YouTube thumbnails and outdated comment sections. Let's break it down, surgically. Black Ops 2. Yeah, it had traces of SBMM, party filters, minor engagement weighting, but matchmaking prioritised connection. You could stomp, you could get stomped. It wasn't a perfectly curated sweatbox. It was chaotic, raw, fun, and it made you better. Advanced Warfare? Yeah, SBMM were heavier, people hated it. And that's point. It wasn't industry standard. It were an experiment, one that backfired hard enough for Treyarch to backpedal in BO3. COD 4? That's where history truly breaks. COD 4 released in 2007, Advanced Warfare dropped in 2014. Calling COD a rehash at AW engine is like saying Pong were based on Unreal Engine 5. It's not just wrong, it's temporal madness. You don't rehash something 7 years before it existed, unless you're Lord Revan, self-declared historian or alternate timelines. But it's what his comment represents that matters. Belief that having an opinion is same as having insight. Idea that if you yell it in a comment box, it becomes canon. This was his opening move. Loud, wrong, confident. Twonk badge unlocked. Law Twonk. For confidently misquoting COD history with smugness or a man citing Reddit footnotes as scripture. And from here on, we just watched him fall. Not all at once, but piece by piece, reply by reply, as each misunderstanding exposed something deeper. He wanted here to argue SBMM. He were here to protect his identity, one built on fragile memories and borrowed knowledge. So I responded, not with rage, not with insult, just a simple, structured, factual reply. No raised voice, no name calling, just a tone of restrained disappointment, like telling a grown man he's misread instructions on a toaster. I acknowledged trace elements in BO2 and AW, explained how those games flirted with SBMM but weren't built on it, and pointed out what began in 2016 wasn't just SBMM, it was weaponisation of it, engagement driven, behaviour tracked. Algorithmic design stitched into the spine of modern Call of Duty. That's when it happened. His reply didn't come in calmly. It came back blocked, censored by YouTube's auto-moderation filter. A burst of slurs and snarls so immediate and unhinged, algorithm itself backed away. And in that moment, debate ended. Because debates happen between two minds. What followed wasn't a discussion, it were an outburst, a rupture. See, when someone explodes in response to your calm correction, they're not fainting your facts, they're fainting what those facts say about them. He wasn't protecting truth, he was defending his ego. And your ego don't care about patch notes or engine architecture, it just knows when it's bleeding. What followed in that censored message wasn't argument, it was fear. Fear of being exposed, fear of being wrong, publicly. Fear that identity he built, wise old community member who'd been there since Black Ops 2, wasn't bulletproof. And so projection began. Insults flew, reality bent, logic fled scene. This wasn't about SBMM anymore. This were about one man trying not to feel like a fool and failing. Saddest part? He didn't even know he'd already lost. Cause once you trade curiosity for contempt, learning ends. And all that's left is noise. Badge unlocked. Projection Twonk for responding to calm correction with emotional flailing and YouTube censored tantrums. The next game is Evidence. Fallback position at Chronically Online. Modder Gospel. He insisted that modders found it. It being proved that skill-based matchmaking were embedded deep in code of games as far back as BO2 and COD 4. Proof, he claimed, that I were wrong and he were right. Case closed. But here's the thing about modders. They dig, they poke, they speculate, and sometimes they guess wrong. Yeah, there have been elements of skill consideration found in older builds, some back-end flags, match variance filters, performance logging. None of that proves that SBMM, post-2016 kind, behavioural, monetization aligned kind, were live and active back then. Yet Revan treated modder findings like archaeological scripture. He saw partial data and declared a full doctrine. It's digital equivalent to finding one fossilised toenail and announcing you've discovered a dragon. And that's trip, innit? People who want to believe something will twist out into proof. Correlation becomes causation, speculation becomes certainty, and before long, a vague variable in a server log becomes a conspiracy theory with a comment section following. But here's real kicker. Even if traces of SBMM logic did exist before 2016, that doesn't disprove point. Cause point ain't whether the system existed, it's when it became designed. SBMM didn't just appear in 2016, it took over in 2016. That was when retention metrics started steering match outcome. That was when data scientists started balancing your lobbies to keep you playing. Not to make things fair, but to make things engaging. At the moment Revan leaned on modders as proof, what he really exposed was his reliance on borrowed belief. Cause he didn't test these systems. He didn't measure their impact. He just repeated what sounded clever. Not to learn, not to engage, but to protect a house of cards built entirely out of YouTube comments and Discord threads from 2014. Badge unlocked. Basement meta law Twonk for interpreting modern speculation as divine truth and citing it like it came from Activision's stone tablets. Cornered by contradiction and rattled by reason, Revan did what so many do when their logic starts leaking from sides. He reached for influencers. His gospel? T. Martin and Drifter. Two names that carry weight in Call of Duty content machine. Big following, long histories, familiar faces, and absolutely categorically not unbiased. See, here's the thing. T. Martin ain't known for dissecting complex game systems. He's known for selling them. Drifter's not problem either. But let's not pretend he's a whistleblower. These aren't critics, the content vendors. Citing T. Martin in a debate about SBM history is like bringing a Coca-Cola rep to a debate on diabetes. Of course they'll sound professional, of course they'll know terms, but they're not there to tell you it's poison. They're there to make it go down easier. And irony? Revan's whole meltdown is rooted in outrage. He was furious at State of COD, outraged by matchmaking, enraged by the idea that someone had said SBMM were a design system baked into post-2016 ecosystem. And yet when pressed, who does he cite? Two creators whose entire relevance is sustained by the same system he claims to hate. That's paradox. You can't rage against machine and then quote its operators as divine authority. You can't condemn monetization model and then cite its marketing department as if they're objective analysts. That's not analysis, that's corporate Stockholm syndrome. But here's a deeper issue. When someone leans on personalities instead of principles, they're not making a point, they're deferring responsibility. Don't argue with me, he's saying, argue with them. But here's catch, they're not here, you are. And if your belief system needs someone else to speak for it, you don't believe it. You're just borrowing conviction from someone you watched on a Tuesday night in 1080p. Badge unlocked. Gooch liquor Twonk for treating monetized YouTubers like holy prophets while preaching anti-corporate outrage in the same breath. Now this is where Lord Revan decided to go full conspiracy coder. Cornered, corrected, and clinging to dignity, he dropped what he believed was trump card. COD 4 had SBMM. It used same engine as Advanced Warfare. On surface, that's almost credible, until you realise two things. One, yeah, Modern Warfare Remastered, released in 2016, were built on a modified version of Advanced Warfare engine. That's true. It were bundled with Infinite Warfare, and yeah, That means it likely carried early version of Charlie Olsen's engagement algorithm, originally designed for Call of Duty Mobile and adapted for console play. That makes Modern Warfare Remastered first documented example of modern SBMM running live, quietly, subtly, and for most players, invisibly. 2. None of that matters, because it's irrelevant to argument. See, Revan failed to grasp simple structural truth. Video into bar every COD title. It's about mainline releases, games that defined their years. Infinite Warfare, World War II, Black Ops 4. Remasters, reboots and nostalgia bundles, they were never part of thesis, because they weren't trying to push franchise forward. They were there to soften backlash or Infinite Warfare and plug a marketing gap. So yeah, Modern Warfare Remastered did feature SBMM, but no, that doesn't disprove a single point in video. Because what I laid out wasn't about technical first, it were about design intent, when SBMM shifted from an experiment into the very skeleton of COD's engagement model. Infinite Warfare what started that shift. It was first mainline title built on function with SBMM at its core. In World War II, that's when it locked in. Black Ops 4, that's when it started driving. So Revan's rebuttal, while factually closer to Mark, still misses point entirely. He brought a technicality to a structural design, a citation with no context, and in doing so, he revealed real issue. He didn't watch video to understand it, he watched to disprove it. Which is why he ended up citing a remaster I never even mentioned, as if it shattered a narrative that never included it. Badge unlocked, engine amnesiac twonk, for confusing studio lineage, engine folks, and narrative scope like COD timeline theorists with untreated caffeine addiction. By this point, you'd think story ends. A misinformed comment, a calm correction, a series of increasingly desperate replies. Usual dance of digital denial. But no, Revan wasn't finished. When firing first comment thread began to flicker out, he went looking for more fuel. And what did he find? A gameplay video. No commentary, no narration, no discussion. Just raw footage of me playing through Doom Dark Ages. And he commented there, angrily, repeatedly, publicly. Now let's pause. This were not a response video. There were no opinion, no argument, not a single word. Just gameplay. Yet somehow that offended him. He accused me of being bad at shooters, of being an untalented incel, phrase that really loses impact when you're screaming it at someone and not even speaking. And most bizarrely, he suggested I should replay the game later, so I could pretend it was my first time. This is where obsession become theatre. He wasn't debating anymore, he was spiralling into monologue. He needed to keep shouting, even if there were no one to shout at, even if video itself had naught to do with him. And that's terrifying beauty of it. Because when someone lashes out at silence, what they're really doing is arguing with their own reflection. They're trying to unloose a conversation they already buried themselves in. And it didn't stop with one comment, it came in waves. Hours apart. As if every few hours he couldn't help himself. Had to come back. Had to say more. Had to matter. This wasn't rebuttal, this was ritual. A cycle of projected shame disguised as critique. He didn't watch to understand, he watched to punish. Not me, himself. Badge unlocked, Phantom Twonk, for getting emotionally violated by silence and projecting rage into void of raw gameplay. Most people lose an argument and walk away. Maybe they rethink, maybe they stew, but eventually they move on. Revan, he chose a different path. Slower, stranger, more intimate form of self-destruction. After gameplay video, comments didn't stop, they multiplied. Not in a thread, but individually, hours apart. Each new message landed like a missed swing. Not just angry, obsessed. As if he couldn't stop reliving argument in his head. Not just replying, reopening wound. 6 hours, 4 separate replies. All to a man who still hadn't said a word. That's not discourse. That's a monologue performed in an empty theatre. One where audience left hours ago, but actors still screaming. Because he needs to believe he's being heard. And what do those replies actually say? Insults. Same recycled toothless jabs. You suck. You're untalented. This is why nobody watches your channel. Which is ironic, because he watched. Over and over. And with every comment, algorithms smiled. Each reply boosted video. Each insult increased reach. Every attempt to tear me down lifted channel up. He want me enemy. He want me intern. My accidental marketing team, a rage-powered SEO boost delivered by someone too blinded by ego to realise he'd become part of brand. This wasn't punishment, it was promotion. And every time he hit post, he wasn't silencing me, he was signing a permission slip to be featured right here. Congratulations, Revan, you earned this spotlight, one angry keystroke at a time. Badge unlocked. Obsession Twonk, for turning a failed debate into a 6-hour passion project of pure self-inflicted humiliation. And so here we are. One timeline unravelled, one Twonk dissected, piece by delusional piece. Not cause it were personal, not cause it were hostile, but cause it were necessary. Cause every now and then, someone appears in your comment section who don't just misunderstand topic, they misunderstand themselves, and result into debate. It's a documentary. This wasn't about SBMM, this wasn't about COD engines, this were about one man, desperate to matter, addicted to being raped, and too proud to pause long enough to listen. He didn't comment to correct, he commented to exist, loudly, repeatedly, publicly. And in doing so, he turned a misunderstanding into a meltdown, a disagreement into performance, and himself into content. So, Revan, wherever you are now, scrolling through ashes of this thread, wondering if your next username will go better than last, I'll leave you with this. Mate, I'd say touch grass, but I'm afraid you'd mod it into SBMM proof. Thanks for driving up engagement though. Comments like yours are the reason I keep making videos. Badge unlocked. Mythical Twonk. Awarded to those who transcend reason, reject fact, and become legend. Not for the victories, but for the meltdowns. And guess what? It's my birthday. 47 today. And I couldn't think of a better gift than tearing apart a digital law gremlin who called me a little boy in rage commenting on gameplay I wasn't even narrating. To my viewers, thank you for sticking around. Thank you for laughing with me. Thank you for recognising the difference between confidence and clarity. Join Discord, follow on X, consider a channel membership if you want more breakdowns, more deep cuts, and more twonks dragged into sunlight. Smash like, hit subscribe, drop a comment below if you've got something to say. I may feature it in a future video, if it's not complete bollocks. Some twonks go too far sometimes. I'll see you next time, you magnificent.